All right. Welcome back to a new episode of the Forest Brothers Podcast. It's your boy, Mutsa Christo Makufa in the cut with my brothers, Mangoro and Samson. What's good, brothers? Say hi to the mandem for us, starting with the boy Samson, then the boy Nkosi, and then we'll get into the meat of the conversations for today. Over to you, Mr. Samson.
Hello, dear listeners. Thank you once again for turning on the pod and listening to the boys. It's great to be here. The brothers, we're back once again. It's me, it's Mongoro, it's Mutsa, and I am ready to go, gents. Mongoro, how are you feeling, bro?
I know, Samson, I'm feeling amazing, man. Today I decided to wear a shirt that was on brand with the Forest Brothers podcast. I told you, listener, this week, we're bringing fire to the Forest Brothers podcast. You can see we're bringing upgrades to the platform as we go. There's more upgrades coming, so be ready, be tuned in, like, comment, subscribe, do all that beautiful stuff. Turn on notifications on the podcast platforms. And yeah, hello to my brothers here, and hello, listener, and thank you for tuning in.
Yes, Zersky, if there's one thing that our podcast is about, especially moving forward, is called constant progression. You just be seeing constant updates. We're not going to just plateau. You see, last week it was one vibe, now it's got another vibe. Hey, man, we're out here. So without further ado, gentlemen, I'm excited. I think the fact that we're even recording today is because there's no Premier League. It's been a very sad weekend for me personally. You know, I live for the Premier League. Like this morning, I woke up and I felt lifeless. So, you know, I'm usually waking up at 7:30 just to watch even Everton versus Crystal Palace. I'll wake up for that. But there was nothing. I just have to sleep. You know, it was sad. Anyway, so this is all because of the football schedule. Right now, in case you do not know, listener, this is an international break right now. This is the second one in the Premier League already. And it's only game week 7. So imagine, second international break, game week 7. I've never seen anything like this. I know I'm not happy about it. I know the players aren't happy about it. I know the fans aren't happy about it. So we decided that, you know what, let's actually talk about this thing. So today, that's what the episode is about. You're going to concern a lot of is this schedule, this season especially, that the new players are facing and the effects of that on the fans, on the players, on the coaches, on gameplay, on whatever the case may be. So actually, I want to hand it over to Mr. Mangoro here, who's going to give us sort of like a background on what exactly is happening with this player schedule, how long is it, what does it look like, why these changes have come about. So without further ado, Mr. Mangoro, how's about we educate those who have been also curious, like what's up with the schedule this season and just don't know why. So over to you, Mr. Mangoro. Explain it to the people.
Certainly. Before I even get started on the schedule, Mutsa, just so that you know, and maybe the listeners also know, there's another international break coming up in November. So just be prepared. So basically, the whole essence of like how the schedule is now and going forward for in the foreseeable future in football is so there's expanded tournaments across the board. There's a lot of monetization being put in football, so the number of games are going to drastically increase across the board. I don't think the people that organize football really care about the players like that. They just care about the bottom line and ensuring that there's more football games out there, the number of tournaments being played. Like literally, if you're a top team right now, you could be participating in give or take 5-6 tournaments, possibly 7. You could have like 1 month of break next year if you go to the Club World Cup. So it's just so basically now I'd say it's just opened up a huge can of worms amongst like a lot of players, managers, and just the football fraternity as a whole. Because when you think about it, on average, you would say a typical Premier League player or typical European player would play 40 to about 60 games. And that's like in a good season. If you reach like all the finals of every tournament, you're possibly looking at like 55, 60 games cap. But now with like all these expanded tournaments and new tournaments and all these other things they're doing on the side, we're possibly looking at like 80 games. And that just seems like a huge toll on players' legs and just general welfare. Because when you think about it, and we do understand that it's their profession at the end of the day, but I don't know, like 80 games, like it's just far too much. Like sometimes it's even like Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. Like it's just so much, and it's just like I'd say it's not good for the players. It's good for us as fans, entertainment at the end of the day. But for me, like I'd say it's a lot. Samson, when you look at it, like, do you see it just being down to like that, or are there like particular aspects that are like driving like this growth in number of games?
So yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think it's mostly just these investment groups, mostly from the US, um, investing heavily in these different competitions and trying to put pressure on clubs to field their best players. I think the FIFA Club World Cup committee has really come out and said, because I saw this on Sky Sports News the other day. They said that they want the best players available, and they don't want clubs to just send like their B team or anything like that. And to facilitate that, they are going to try and allow a transfer window within the tournament, which I've never heard of before. But yeah, teams will be able to buy players during the Club World Cup and sell players. And also, the Club World Cup happens in June, July, so some players' contracts might be up at that time. If they play in Europe, like De Bruyne's contract is going to be up on June 30th. So they're adding provisions to rules to allow him to play a bit more, like stuff like that. So it's like, I think it's all coming from the investment side, because football as it is already has like a delicate balance to it. Each federation, at least in speaking from the European context, each federation doesn't just focus on the league; they focus on the cups as well, and they try to distribute that playing time over the course of the season, evenly. Think of the UK, you have the Carabao Cup mainly happening in the fall. You have the Premier League, obviously 38 games across the season. Then the FA Cup comes in towards the end, but that's just for the top clubs. These competitions start, like I think in August. I think the FA Cup even starts in August, but like, just smaller teams, smaller leagues are involved. And that's what the competition's all about. It's about the fans, it's about the players, it's about these small clubs and giving them their livelihood. If you mess with that because you want to add a new competition here and just profit, you're messing with the system that's already kind of on its knees, really. And the people end up suffering the most of the players. So I think that's what we're seeing. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add here, Muta. But yeah, I don't know how much harder these players can be run into the ground.
Yeah, actually, speaking of that, actually, as an Arsenal fan, I know you just saw Mr. Bukayo Saka got injured in the England game this past, couple of days ago, and he's been sent back home to be looked at by the Arsenal physios. We actually saw as well, like in the beginning of the season, Bernardo Silva came out and was complaining about the schedule and how much he's gonna miss Christmas with his kids. He's always on the road, he's always playing, and they're tired and all this and all this and all this. And I guess we see with Saka's situation where like these tournaments, people are gonna get injured at the end of the day. Man United fans are always talking about Mr. Kobe Mino. He's basically been run into the ground and it's only like 18? Like you can already see he's dead wood. His legs are cooked, and maybe that's due to the amount of games he's just been playing. But anyway, there are fans out there who hear this player cries and just say, hey, shut up and dribble. You are earning 90,000, 100,000, 200,000 pounds a week in the UK, where like minimum wage is 29,000 pounds a year. It's the normal person in the UK does not earn that much. And then you have a player like John Stones who's walking around with 200,000 plus a week, right? So a lot of people just say, shut up and dribble. This is what we want to see. Get on that pitch and play your ass off, man. We don't care. We don't care if you don't see your kids. You're earning enough to, or whatever the case may be. So anyway, my question to you, Mongora, as well is, Ed Sampson as well. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that line of thought that says, shut up and dribble, because it's a two-edged sword. At the same time, yeah, you want to see the players play, but I think, again, now we're seeing a much more boring Premier League where like players are much more cautious. They're not gonna try and play as hard because they know that if I play today, it's Saturday, I'm playing again on Tuesday. So, and then we know tired legs cause injuries, tackles happen, injuries happen. I'm sure Saka's gonna be chilling for the next week or two. This can have very adverse reaction on the Premier League itself. in terms of like the quality of football we're watching. Like it's just getting worse and worse. People are just trying to protect themselves. And even the lifeline of players is decreasing significantly. Like substituting a Rashford off a game and he's 27, 26 because you want to arrest him for the next game. It's crazy. I don't think that's ever happened in the Premier League before, where like you're arresting a young player because, hey, so anyway, I want to throw that to you first, Mangora, and then Samson, maybe to kind of talk about that line of thought about shut up and dribble.
I would like to say, from the example you made regarding John Stones and in the context of shut up and dribble, I don't think John Stones will be doing any of that. So for him, I think we'll be fine. On the Rashford situation, I think that's another issue. There's another man who's actually causing some of these things. If you're interested, you can go in and tune into our previous episode. We talk at length about that. I think that's the issue there. But in all honesty, I think some teams just react better to some of these things, and some teams are like, it's just too much. Because when you look at it, like, I think the teams like with bigger squads will be able to cope with like this expanded schedule. That's why like they're not complaining as much, and the teams with like smaller schedules are like, okay, player welfare, it's going to take its toll. Like, I think this is maybe this is just the future of football. Like, you primarily just have to now have 28, 29, actually 30 players and have like two first 11s. And one team plays one tournament, one team plays the other tournament. And that's just how it's going to be, because like it's not like these people that make these football decisions have actually ever played the game. Then you also have to keep in mind, like when you think about your Richard Masters, your Gianni Infantinos, and the likes, the people that make the decisions, never played the sport. They don't understand what it is to play Saturday, Tuesday, or like play every 3-4 days. They don't know that feeling, so they just make decisions because at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line to them. Firstly, and then secondly, it's also just going to your point about the Premier League and the drop in quality of soccer. I'd say it's not only like the schedule. I think it's also like a multitude of things. I'd say I'd add two things to that. Firstly, it's just the quality of refereeing. Like, we've seen some of the stuff that the referees have been doing this season. Ever since they introduced VAR, I think they've become worse, but that's just my personal opinion. So that's like one aspect. The other aspect that I would mention regarding just the quality of football is just that there's just an influx of just some terrible coaches that they've brought to the Premier League, like who have actually done the most despicable things across the league. And in my opinion, like, that's primarily why we see the Premier League as it is today. Because when you have good coaches, you have the best in the world. Like, I don't think Russell Martin is the best in the world, but at the end of the day, that's my opinion. But he's in the Premier League and he coaches in the same league where the best coach is Pep Guardiola. So you can see like how that affects the league. And then the other thing is like the media. I think the media has now become the darling of like the Premier League. So everything the media says also just plays into like a lot of like the quality of football we see, because now you see how players are reacting. They're always worried about what Gary Neville, Michael Richards, Jamie Carragher, what people at Sky are going to say and things like that. So I'd say there's a lot of that. But like Samson, what are your thoughts on like this particular issue?
Wait, before we go to Samson, you made me realize something, Mangoro. Is Todd Bowley actually a genius? Because if we're talking about players and needing two squads, in the last episode, you talked about how you can replace the whole front four with another front four that can just do it as well, like your Joao Felix's, your whatever's. Chelsea, we made fun of them in the beginning about signing millions of players, giving them long-term contracts. But maybe I don't know. I know we love to bully, but could that actually be genius from Chelsea? The fact that they have so many players that are in their roster that they can call upon whenever Cole Palmer needs a break, we know that there's someone else who can fill in the role. If, Nicholas Jackson needs a break, because I don't know if any other team has taken on, I didn't know Nottingham Forest did that last year, but we haven't seen that. But I think Chelsea right now is the only top team that I know has a very, very deep bench. So is your boy Bowley a genius, Mangoro?
I've said it at length. I think Todd Bowley is not a genius. He's an absolute disaster. But I say that because when we think about the Chelsea situation is very complicated. You need to go study it up. But I'll just give you the long and short of it today. Basically, what has happened at Chelsea is there's been a power shift. So the person doing the day-to-day operations of the business is no longer Todd Bowley. So, for example, when Todd Bowley came in, he was the one that signed all the players. So the first summer we saw your Aubameyangs, Koulibaly's, all those signings that were an absolute disaster. That was the work of Todd Bowley. And I think the club owners, Clear Lake Capital, which, funny enough, Todd Bowley is not part of Clear Lake Capital. He's just an investor. He's just the face of something that he only owns 30 something percent with his partners, and Clear Lake are the controlling stake of Chelsea Football Club with Bedad Ekbali and Clear Lake. They own the 60 something percent of so they're the majority shareholders. So they took charge. So the January that a lot of players came in and they started to rejig everything. So some of the players that you see now, as I say, the three transfer windows from the time when Todd Bowley was the sporting director, or like the everything at the club, even the bus driver. He, so I believe from then it kind of like they started to streamline it and started to bring in younger players and quality players. Maybe they knew that this is just going to be the future of football. So I'd actually give more credit to Bedad Ekbali. Not a lot of people actually do believe that, but I believe that Bedad Ekbali, with the streamlined process that we have and how they've been able to recruit players, managers, and things like that, we've seen. I'd say we're now starting to see the work of Bedad Ekbali. We saw the work of Todd Bowley. The work of Todd Bowley was your firing Tuchel, all those signings, the worst Chelsea coach in Graham Potter. That was all Todd Bowley. Those things I give it to him. And then over time now we see, I think also even Pochettino was kind of Todd Bowley. And then now when we're seeing Enzo Marescas, we're seeing Cole Palmers, we're seeing Nonnies, we're seeing some of these shrewd signings. I don't know about Enzo and maybe Caicedo. Caicedo, I'd say, was more like a better signing. So some of the Malo Gustos, some of these other guys that have flown under the radar, I'd say are more the new regime taking control of the club. So I'd say that's who I give credit to. Bowley, I will never give him credit for anything because of what he did the first 2 summers. He put us in the situation that we're now recovering. We're now building the club where he almost killed it in 2 years.
Yeah, I'd agree with Mangor. I wouldn't praise Brett Todd for anything. He's ridiculous guy. I mean, Enzo 125. I don't have to say any more than that. I think that just sums him up as a sporting director. But you guys had asked a question about the state of football and how things are progressing, and I think that might even deserve its own longer conversation, because I think there's a lot of things that that are happening. Mangor has spoken about the different coaches coming in. Not every team, at least it seems, not every team these days is focused on winning games. I grew up watching the Premier League, and every team, every coach would do anything they can to win the next game. It didn't matter what it was. You had Tony Pulis literally trading throw-ins all week because that's how he gets points. You had Big Sam, who had mastered long balls, mastered how to get the ball from his keeper to his striker in the shortest time possible. Coaches don't really do stuff like that anymore. They want to have philosophies and playing styles and all this. And the truth is, only a few guys can do that successfully, because not everyone, everyone is that good, like in any field. For example, in physics, how many Einsteins are there? How many people are going to be the next greatest thing happening? It's a very small amount of people. And these investors, they come in and they think, that guy plays amazing football. Yeah, can you do that? Yeah, I can do it. It's no, you have to work with what you have. And I think the core of coaching is being lost, which is work with what you have, make players better. And I think we're losing a bit of that. And also another thing I'll touch on, like the referees. Mongo brought up VAR. I mean, I can talk about refs again a whole episode because Arsenal, you guys have seen how Arsenal has been done by refs. I mean, this season they've already got us this season, so that also needs being looked at. And then obviously you have the schedule coming in. So yeah, I'd say a lot of things are changing very fast. And yeah, honestly, I'm not sure how the players are even coping with all this stuff. To be honest with you, it seems like a lot. Like no matter where you look, it seems like there's another person who doesn't really care about your well-being outside of like your club. Like the refs don't care, the fans don't seem to care, the league doesn't care, the international federation doesn't care, and the coach wants you to play away. He doesn't know how. You don't know how. It's just, yeah, man. The only thing that at least brings me some joy is that the coaches who are trying all this fancy stuff, at least they're trying to do attacking football. Sometimes it works, and most of the time, though. But at least from like an entertainment standpoint, that's the only positive I can spin on it. But yeah. It's very concerning. It's very, very concerning. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. But yeah.
Let me just add something quick there. I just don't know what you just said. That just came to mind. One thing that people have to also just keep in mind is, especially like for South American players that play in Europe, imagine like just to give you an example, like you're playing early on Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning. When that game ends on Wednesday morning this week, you're gonna have to fly all the way back to Europe. The jet lag, all that stuff, and then you have playing the early kickoff on a Saturday, and then you play after Saturday, and you play on Wednesday or Tuesday. And then it just continues. And the next international break, you have to travel back to South America. So just think about like that time aspect on like the time you're spending in the year. You get there, you play. You don't even have time to rest. You're back. You kind of feel like you're now working for this thing. Like it's just a lot on these players, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So, given this, like, what's the way forward? For those players that are crying out, saying, "Hey, this is killing us," how does this, like, as fans or as people who love football, can we ever get back to a place where we don't have to suffer through these many international breaks? Is it only gonna get worse? Can it get better? Or is at the golden times behind us now? Like, is this it? Is this the new normal where we know that, okay, this guy is going to play 2 to 3 games a week, every week until the end of the season. It gets a 2-week break in the summer, and it's back again to kind of the schedule. So is that the situation in which we're in right now? I can throw that back to you, Samson. Like, what can we do, or what can be done for things to get better? Or has that ship sailed and this will be us for the next however long it's us?
Well, I always think no one ever learns from anything until it starts to hurt a little bit. There has to be some pain. There has to be some period where things go horribly wrong. And you're going to see that, I think, through injuries. No Man's already lost Rodri then, but that was kind of like no, I don't think that was a result of the schedule. That was just like a freak.
Arsenal Dark Arts. That's what the result was. Arsenal Dark Arts.
But I mean, if you really want to talk about it, like he went knee to knee with Thomas Partey. Like,
Partey targeted him, Samson. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Anyway, I digress.
All I'm saying is that man eats fufu. You eat whatever you eat. You think your knees can hold up? All right, whatever. But anyways, my point is, you have all these games that all these top players are being subjected to. The only way you're going to see a change is if someone big, it's going to have to be someone big. I'm talking like Mbappe, Haaland, Saka misses a huge tournament because they ran out of gas. I think that's when you're gonna, and not just one. I think it's gonna have to be like multiple. So like you see, like maybe like next World Cup, next Euros, um, let's say France, England make it to the final, and literally they cannot field Mbappe or Saka or three or four of the top guys. I think that's when everyone's going to turn around and be like, hey, like what are we doing? But until then, it's not going to change because like right now they're placing the responsibility on the clubs and the coaches to rotate and use more of their squad, which I think is that's what they should be doing. But as a coach who's fighting for his job, am I gonna say, you know what? I play Brighton this week. Let me play this 18-year-old youngster so that I can be ready for that Champions League game. What if you play that 18-year-old, you lose Brighton against Brighton, then you lose in the Champions League again? Like, these are risks that are hard to take. And the easiest way forward is if there are less games. But the people with the money, they don't respond to logic like that. They need pain. They need things to go spectacularly wrong so that these big tournaments they put up, they need to see the biggest players not making it. That's the only way they're going to realize that, I guess these guys are too tired. Because otherwise, I don't see how. But yeah, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this to Mangoro, do you think that there's going to be more of an aggressive recruitment of players in the transfer window in January because of this particular thing that Samson is talking about? Like, okay, we know this is what it's going to look like. We need to protect certain people for certain games, for certain tournaments. So we need to aggressively recruit, aggressively get players from different places. Do you think that's going to be the case now where like teams are given more budgets to say, all right, go out there and find cover? You can't make it with a team of 20 anymore. You need a team of 40 at this point. Is that kind of where the trajectory goes?
In an ideal world, yes, but in reality, the case is no, especially like in January, because now with FFP, like that's very possible. And secondly, especially in the Premier League with PSR, for those that don't know, PSR is the profit and sustainability rules. That's like the model. Like we're at a point now where in the Premier League, especially over the summer, I think we saw this past summer, there's now 2 transfer windows. There's a transfer window that ends on June the 30th and a transfer window that ends on August the 30th. So it kind of just begs the question, like, as to what exactly is happening. So, in all honesty, I think, like, it's not going to happen. Like, you cannot recruit. Maybe it's also just an opportunity for, like, players from the academy of these teams to actually get more game time. So you see like a lot more players being given minutes because once the squad is thin, they throw in the kids. Like you look at an example with Tottenham when they had all those injuries, like they throw in your Jaffa Tangangas and all those guys, and they got careers. Same thing, Marcus Rashford, Manchester United had injury crisis and they threw them in. So like those kind of things, I think we'll maybe see more youth academy. Maybe it's a good thing with big support of players that come from the youth academy. We'll start to see those. That's one thing. The downside of that for me, in my personal opinion, especially in the Premier League, is that those youth academy players are now seen as profits on the company, on the business, on the club balance sheet. So for PSR reasons, you'll be sold once you have some sort of value in the market, because you're pretty much pure profit from a PSR perspective. So there is that aspect, but at the end of the day, it's just how these people run these clubs and they just roll with the punches.
And rolling with the punches is the way forward. So I guess what we're trying to say is to you players out there who are looking at the schedule, your Bernardo Silvas, I'm sure Bukayo Saka's going to come out and say something. Hey, shut up and dribble. We want to be entertained. I mean, I don't like this thing because I personally don't watch international football. I don't watch Premier League. And sometimes I am happy a player gets injured. I know that's taboo. Come on. At the end of the day, if the boy Haaland Days gets injured, who am I to complain? If the boy Saka goes down for a month or two, who am I to complain? Hey, Baba, you know what? You're sitting on the sidelines for the next 6 months. You're earning 500,000 a week. Hey, man, things could. At this point, just fake it. If you're tired, just fake an injury. I think maybe that's where it'll go. Actually, where like players start going down, just to get a break. They're like, hey, oh my ankle, oh my hammy. Just suck a gimmick. Just get up and just wobble a little bit. I feel like I've hated on Saka a little bit too much today.
This guy's talking about Haaland, Saka. Okay, you should be worried if Solly March is going to be playing, bro. Those are your guys. That's who you're competing with,
come on, man. Solly March is bright. Samson, come on, man.
Exactly. That's what you should be worried about. Talking about Saka and Haaland. Man, come on. We're not in your league even.
Yeah, man. But I think at the end of the day, I do understand the shut up and dribble claims, but I do think that players need to be protected, and so that I really want to watch quality football, man. Like, for sure, it's nice to watch Tottenham and Brighton go bar for bar. No more defending. Maybe it becomes basketball like. Whoever scores the most and whoever defends the best. Like, maybe that's all we get up to. High line and just gun it. That's it. High line and gun it. No more trying to be balanced. Just try outscore the other team. So maybe that's the future of football, but I have no idea. Anyway, that's it from me, Mangoro Samson. Any last words? I'll start with the boy Mangoro and then Samson, and then we can close it out for the wonderful listeners out there.
Listener and viewers, just tune in. When you finish watching Premier League or whatever time zone it plays for you, be sure to tune into the Forest Brothers podcast. That's all you have to do. Those are the two things you just do every weekend. Watch your favorite team or favorite teams. Once that is done, tune into the Forest Brothers podcast. We will be there.
Yes, sir. We will be there. Brother Mongo was saying, dear listener, we will be there every week. No matter what, we will be there. And yeah, once again, thank you for being with us today and listening to us. And yeah, I know we've said a lot of stuff here that seems hopeless, but I am an optimist at heart. I do have to say that. I feel like we have to leave the listeners, with a little, we can't leave them thinking like, yo, it's all doom and gloom. Like, yo, like football is, it does bring joy. It does bring happiness. And I think fundamentally that's not going to change. But I do think after we do get that rough patch and things do get back on track, I think, we will see the best of it, because I think you will always have, in sports, I think the sporting people will always win at the end of the day. The money men, they can do what they like, they can throw money around, but at the end of the day, I think football is going to triumph. So maybe that's just me being hopeful, but I wait for that day eagerly, that football triumphs and conquers all. So yeah, see you next time, dear listener.
Yeah, indeed. Let's hope that is true. Well, listener, thank you so much. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, share, like, comment. We love all forms of engagement. And yeah, thank you for hanging out with the Forest Brothers podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Just know there's more to come, more exciting things to talk about. And with that, I say peace out, listener, and we will catch you on the next one.